Well, another day. Horse chores are done. Cows are watered. They've got their round bales. And I dug my wood trailer out of the snowbank. And what I'm going to do is bring a bunch of these project saws down in the woods. And I've got a couple of motivations here. One is Bob's going to be coming up on Saturday with a bunch of stuff. And I want to see if I can actually get up in there. We have such deep drifts and it's beginning to melt a little bit. Can you believe that? It's actually beginning to melt. I want to make sure that I can still get down that road. But I'm bringing stock project saw, the Huztl. You did get a little bit of snow, not much, but kind of curious to see how this thing handles those that deep snow down there. I hope it still froze. If it's all frozen, it won't be a problem at all. And that's the woods we're going to get to, right smack in the middle of that first square patch off to the left of my farm road, which you see going up the hill. That's pretty much the wood lot right there. You got the one directly to the left of the road, then you have the fields, and then you have the one further left to that. There's another one behind, but that's where we get our firewood, our timber, and all that. And while I'm riding, going nowhere fast, a couple of comments on those project saws. I guess there's a couple of things I really want to make clear about these videos. And if the messages aren't getting out clearly, I need the feedback. I'll shut them right off. The first is this, is that as far as the aftermarket is concerned and aftermarket parts, I want people to get into that should they decide to go there with a healthy sense of skepticism. And I am. The reason I'm doing this is to try to let people live the experience of how things would be should they take that route. It could be a positive one and it could be a negative one, but it's going to be real what I put on that video. It's not going to be contrived in any way, shape, or form. Trials and tribulations and successes and failures. I just want to be like telling the story, real time, real life of what it's like to live with these parts. And then you can make your own decision. I'm not going to endorse one way or the other, but you can make your own decision if you want to take that risk. Part A of number one is, it is a risk. They're all a risk. There's no track record on these parts, not that we can verify. This is all a risk. Number two is, I want to portray on the videos what life is doing this for the average guy. The guy who's got a good set of tools, he's mechanically inclined. Oh, here we go. We're going to find out if we get there or not. And what you can and cannot do with the standard tools you can get from Lowe's or Sears. And if you need to get special tools, I'm going to go to low range here. Fourth gear low range and just see how this goes. And if you need a special set of tools, I want that to be displayed. For example, I don't think you can chintz on case splitters. You just load those cases. They're thin castings, they're thin wall castings, and the Husqvarna style case splitter is the least stressful way for those castings to split the cases apart. So that's the kind of thing I think a real professional grade tool is required. Pushing in the bearings and pushing in the seals, well, none of that's straightforward. It takes a little bit of skill. It's not like I haven't done them before in the motorcycle world, but with some skills, you can use your standard toolbox to find ways of getting those seals and bearings in. So I want to portray that. A third point I want to make is that by the time you've done as much modification and as much aftermarket supplementing of parts as I've done on the Huztl Saw, that is no longer a Husqvarna. So anything that goes wrong with that saw cannot be any way, shape, or form a black mark on the Husqvarna the brand, because it's no longer a Husqvarna. So much of that saw is aftermarket. It is not a Husqvarna anymore. It's now a Huztl or Forester or whatever stuff you use in your saw. The reason I say that is because if something does go wrong with aftermarket build saws of a particular brand, it's very easy for people to look at it and say, you know something, those darn Husqvarnas just suck. Look at that thing blow up. When in fact it was a saw that may have put in 15 years of hard work, and then just to get another 5 years of use, some aftermarket parts were put on, and they in fact blew up, not the saw. So anyway, any comments on this, please drop them in the comment line. That's the best way of conversing. I guess last but not least, what I'm trying to do here, looks like we're doing a good job of getting over these drifts. Holy crap. I know I'm up 4 feet right now, at least. What I'm trying to do is use these and use this medium as a place to converse on this. If I'm wrong, call it bullshit and tell me and show people, and I don't care what it is. It's just getting the information out. I don't have pride in this. There's no pride involved at all. This is just a way of trying to get information out. And a lot of times you get better information from other people trying to replicate the same thing than the first time I did it. So I am not adverse to having people say good and bad things about what they see on that video. For that matter, I would encourage it, because what I'm trying to do is have that website be a place where raw data, empirical data, a favorite word of mine, is both displayed and demonstrated on this subject matter, because there's a lot of people out there like me who are kind of picking around. You know, I said I was going to make 3 points. We're into 4, and I guess the 5th one is you have to understand my attitude going into these project saws. They're saw puzzles. None of these saws are required. Any of these saws blow up, it's not going to make one bit of impact on me at all, which is why I can afford to do it, both financially and in terms of taking my saws and taking them apart. If you do need that saw and you depend on that saw, I would very strongly recommend not doing what I'm doing. This is as much fun and games as anything else. Having said that, over a period of years, if these things turn out to be reliable, and they will be demonstrated both one way or the other, well, and now there's a track record and a reasonable calculation can be made that these changes will be reliable enough to rely on, then I might say, you know, if this is the only saw and this is a way to get an extra 5 years, go for it. But for right now, to me, the aftermarket parts, especially the hard parts, they're kind of an anomaly, and they're kind of a Lego system for me, a saw puzzle, as compared to suggesting that they are an alternative to OEM for a saw that you depend on for a living. And I need to make that clear. For the firewood guy, you know, it blows up, you need a pull start, you need to get it for a couple of months, that might be a good approach. If you're a professional out in the woods and your life depends on that, your income depends on that, in my humble opinion, to this point in time, what I'm seeing, it's better off to have both a professional do the work, but also buy OEM proven track record parts. So anyway, I hope this doesn't put a blanket or a wet blanket on it, but this is the attitude that I'm approaching this from, and I want to make sure that everybody understands this. Anyway, it looks to me like we are actually getting down this road, and you can see where my last tracks were. And I'm going to shut up now and get to work. One thing I can say for sure, it is a gorgeous day. And this is just the sugar bush maple stand. Yeah, it's beautiful out here. I know it's winter time, no leaves and all that, but not a cloud in the sky. I'm going to go around the loop here. That's what, a 20-acre loop, and just make sure I can get all the way around without getting stuck. So this weekend, that's not something I can predict. It's something I know. We got 2 of the trees we cut down to the right there, another one over here, a couple over there. Kind of moving along. I need to take down a bunch more. find out in a few minutes if I can even get there, or am I out with a shovel digging myself out of a bank. Yeah, it's that deep. One of the nice advantages of having a trailer like this, I've got myself a little workbench on the back. So I'm going to swap some bars and chains around. I'm not sure it makes any sense to video all that. It's not like you guys haven't done a chain. I got a tree back there I'm going to take, and I can see up on the top it's got some damage. I better check it out. I mean, it may make a log someday, but I don't know. It's not dead. You know, they eventually grow. Maybe I'll leave it alone. I'll take a look. You know, it's a scary thing when you walk up to a tree like that and you see a tap sticking right out of it. Look at that thing. Huh. Do I really want to monkey with that today? Yeah, it's got some dead in there. There's nothing that's going to come down and kill me. Always look for those widowmakers. It'll make a hell of a thump when I take it down. Might be interesting. I could drop it right over there. It'll probably take down that basswood right there too, right with it. I don't want to hurt those two. I think I could probably make that work. Probably have to take the basswood first. Take out some of these small ones. And then drop it right there towards that other tree that really needs to come out because it's never going to be a log. Decisions. Get rid of that thing. Get rid of a couple of those. Now, what do you think? I wonder if I ought to do that with Bob. I think he might get a kick out of taking this tree down. Be a hell of a cookie to cut, though. The problem is, you know, there's taps in it. Look at that right there. You know, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. It's probably going to be one of those headless sawyer type things, but I'm going to cover a little bit of ground. In the spirit of reviews, I've been trying out, you know, different things, and some things I like and some things I don't. Gloves. Got these quite a while back. These Husqvarna gloves. Both me and my wife like to use them around the farm. I really like them. They hold up pretty well. And as you can see, it's had a fair amount of use. Bought these. I was hoping these would be, you know, at least a match of the Husqvarnas. They didn't last at all. Didn't last at all. That was like after a week. So I don't recommend these at all. They're nice looking and they feel nice when you first put them on. You know, nice leather-like palm. But it just simply didn't hold up for me. Now, other people may have different mileage. And I bought these at one of the local dealers, the Forester gloves. And of course, Forester and Auburn, or whoever you want to call them, they sell many different permutations of the same thing. But this particular glove, I've had a couple of weeks of use on it, and I like them. I really do. But I know, gloves, geez, get back to saws. What I'm going to do is move some stuff around a little bit. I've got this really nice Oregon chain on this Forester bar on my 670 build, which we did the video on. I think I want to take that Oregon chain and put it on Huztl Saw. I also bought this stuff. This is Forester full chisel chain. I had bought the semi-chisel, and you saw that in the last video. And I'm not going to go through the differences, I'm sure you know. I really don't know what to think, but I'm going to put the Forester full chisel on this saw. And we'll see how it runs. But because that already has, well, let me pull the bar guards. And as I said in the other video, I'm not a fan of these kind of bar guards. I like these. Gloves back over there. And this is my stock saw build. Basically, this here is my, I don't know, I guess you could call it my standard bearer. Got some time on it. I love those Sugihara bars, and you've heard me say that before if you've watched my other videos. But this has got the LGX chain. Now, there's a slight difference between this. This is a 72, and these are 73s. Husqvarna used to, I think they still do, ship most of their saws with the 58 gauge, or the 73 series Oregons would fit in the 58 gauge. Sugihara is like the Steels, it's a 50 gauge, so this would be a 72 LGX versus a 73. But since this is what I'm using on this saw, and this is my standard bearer of a saw, I figure it's only fair that Huztl Saw, and like I stress, this is a Husqvarna, this is a Huztl. The Huztl is going to get the same chain as the Husqvarna, so it's a little fair comparison. I'm not going to bore you with having the camera run while I swap bars and chains around. So let me shut that off for now. One thing I will point out is I had mentioned in one of the other saws, the 372s are internal versus external clutches. External, you have the sprocket behind that. It has a degree of pain in the assedness, for lack of a better word, when you're doing your, working around with your chains, because you got to get behind that clutch. The 372s with the inboard clutch makes it a lot easier doing this kind of very simple stuff. So just an aside. And there's the inboard clutch. And this is that poor wasted semi-chisel chain. It's a lot easier working on that than it is. Yeah, that poor thing took a beating. Wow. Anyway, I can salvage it. I'm gonna have to do the same chain sharpening techniques that Bob gave you so much crap for in that other video. Put a decent Oregon chain on it. Probably gonna make a bit of a difference in how this thing cuts. What do you think? Look at that. Isn't that a little bit easier to deal with? Just life with a saw is just a lot easier when it's got that kind of an arrangement. And of course it's got the side adjustment right there too, which helps. Now I'm not left-handed, so I'm right-handed. Not so slick on the nuts here. Now I don't have enough gas to do a lot here. I've got enough gas to maybe make a couple of cuts. So I think that tree that I pointed out is going to have to wait for tomorrow. Maybe I'll add that to the video. But for today, I think I've got enough gas to take a couple of cookie cuts with these saws and maybe those Jonsereds and call it a day for now. I think I proved a point, at least for me, that I can get out here with a tractor. That means Bob can bring whatever saws he wants, and I have a transportation mechanism that'll allow me to get him out in the woods. And really that's what this exercise was for to me, is just to make sure I can. Nothing like driving 3 or 4 hours to find out you can't do anything but sit and talk. Huh. So, see if I can do this left-handed. Well, maybe I am ambidextrous after all. Yeah, it feels pretty good. There you go. Decent chain. Huztl now has a prayer to cut as fast as my Stocker. Alright guys, this will be one of the first of the comparisons. You familiar with this tree right here, because this was on the last video. I'm going to do this kind of quick, but I'm going to do a test cut with a stock saw, maybe 2, and then a test cut with a Huztl, maybe 2, and now they both have the Oregon chain, so it should be a little bit of a closer deal. What I expect to see is this. The Huztl doesn't seem to have as much snap and RPMs as the stock saw. I think that'll show in the video, but it has pretty good pull. The stock saw has a lot livelier feel, and I think that's going to show as well. You know, but that's all part of the discussion. What do you get when you spend the kind of money on aftermarket that I did? Is it really fair to compare that aftermarket Huztl with a Husqvarna OEM built saw? You know, that's up for debate. I don't think so. I think a better comparison for the Huztl is another $250 option as compared to a $400 option. But for the purposes of aftermarket parts, part of the original premise was to see what happens if you use aftermarket parts to fix a broken saw. So, without further ado, I'll start with a stock saw. And this here is that 365 that I put a 372 stock OEM top end on with a meteor piston. There's really nothing special about this saw. For that matter, it may not even be quite as good as a full-on stock 372 XP. It certainly is as good as a 365. It'll sit somewhere in between, but it's a good reference. Let's see if it starts. Aprox saw. Now this is a Huztl. This is not a Husqvarna. And I can't stress that enough because, you know, some people will look at that, it looks like a 372 or a 365. But most of the parts that count are Huztl. Well, I guess I won't know what we got until we get back and look at the video, but they obviously both can cut wood quite well. But in the hands, the Stocker feels a whole lot more saw. So we'll see when I get back to the house. Gonna go up and get the Jonsereds and see what they do. Well, as the Willie Nelson song says, here we go again. Actually, that's not true. What did he say? I think he said on the road again. Anyway, one thing I want to point out is both the Huztl and the Husqvarna were started cold. I didn't warm them suckers up. I just brought them down there and pulled. To that end, I think they're both pretty good running saws. I'm going to do the same thing with these Jonsereds. I'm just going to pull them and see what happens. If they don't start, well, then I'll look like a fool. Start with the 670. This has an aftermarket top end from Tilton. I don't know if they still sell them, but it's an open port 268 Husqvarna style Chinese aftermarket top end. My first impressions are a little bit underwhelming, but we're going to find out right here in the wood if my first impressions are correct or not. So let me see if it starts. We're done. We got what we needed. But anyway, what I was saying was there's really no sense in just running that saw, the two Jonsereds, the 625 and the 670 with the aftermarket top end, against these 372 builds. Not even the same league. Oh my God. So without further ado, like I said before, or without delay, how's that? I think I'm just gonna hop in the tractor and see if I can get back up the hill. That might be an adventure all by itself. Anyway, until next time, bye for now.